You got me for a few minutes, I'm afraid, before... Hello. You got me for a few minutes while AJ takes care of necessary requirements in the changing room. Over to the floor for questions. Hello.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same, which is give us your reaction to the fight.
Yeah, I think that obviously there's a huge amount of pressure on him tonight. I could see that in the changing room. The camp was 5 weeks, maybe a little bit more for Dillian White, completely different style. And when we made the selection of opponent on Sunday or Monday, there was the concern that, you know, HELENIUS is tall, it's a different style to Dillian White, but when we looked at the other options, no one was similar to Dillian in style. So I think we knew that it would take a few rounds to break him down. Did it take one or two more than expected? Maybe, but it was difficult to land the right hand on, and I'm just pleased that he finished it in the way he did, because I think obviously, you know, it's easy to criticise if the fight starts going longer and he doesn't let that right hand go, but with a knockout of the year, pleased, relieved, and ready to move forward.
Yeah, I know you're unlikely any to ever criticise your market or your guys, but 3 rounds they've started winning. It's a bit horrible, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that everybody's talking about, oh, AJ's, you know, not the same fighter, he's lost his killer. So it kind of like, just that noise makes people have that reaction quicker. And I think when you've shown that in the last couple of fights, maybe, people maybe do that 3 or 4 rounds quicker than they should do. I mean, to do it after 2 or 3 rounds is almost quite strange. But also people want to see the old AJ. The old AJ was just an inexperienced guy who didn't really know what he was doing, but had to fight like that because he didn't know how to break an opponent down, didn't know if he could go the distance. And now I think it's just a stage of doing things his way, after giving everybody great entertainment. And he'll still give entertainment, but he's also not going to necessarily take chances that could see him lose a fight he shouldn't, cross his feet over, trade with his chin in the air, and you know, all these kind of things, when he can do what he did tonight. Now, in an ideal world, that would have come in the 3rd, 4th or 5th round, and you know, you wouldn't have seen that reaction. But at the end of the day, I think now he should be as selfish as possible, and I think he should fight in a way that will see him beat his opposition. And tonight he got the job done.
Eddie, after tonight's performance, did it tell you everything about AJ that shows that you'll be ready for Deontay Wilder in January?
I think that he can beat Deontay Wilder comfortably, but he can also get beat by Deontay Wilder. And I don't think necessarily. I mean, the good thing is he got, what was it, 7 rounds in against a tall opponent who can punch a bit with a backhand. I think it's difficult to replicate certainly the power of Deontay Wilder. But I've always felt that AJ can outbox Deontay Wilder. But also I prefer him to box tentatively than his old style against Deontay Wilder. I know he can beat him with that style as well, but I would like to see him box Deontay Wilder, try and break him down. If he lands the right hand on Wilder like that, the fight's over. And vice versa, if Wilder lands the right hand. That's why it's one of the best fights in boxing. But I also think you're not really going to see the best of AJ in fights against Franklin and HELENIUS. That's why he chose Dillian White, because it was a fight that he actually wanted and he could get up for. So this week's been a complete nightmare, and you know, I didn't, honestly, if he would have just boxed like that for another 6 rounds and just won on points, I know people would have been disappointed, but I would have just gone, thank God. But just pleased that he got the showreel knockout.
Do you think though, if AJ is to go the distance like that with Wilder and take his time, that would be much more explosive and much more of a dangerous risk to be in the ring with someone like Wilder? Fury got put down 4 times boxing Wilder. If AJ was to get tagged like Fury, would that be something he wouldn't want to experience?
Yeah, maybe, but obviously, you know, I think you'll box according to the opponent, and I think that maybe he fights more aggressive against Wilder. I don't think you're going to see him just taking chances. I think he likes his chances as a boxer puncher. Again, I think maybe a couple of rounds of trying to find that distance too much tonight. He struggled to time the right hand. That's what he said as soon as I got in the ring. He said he was really awkward to try and land the right hand. And obviously, HELENIUS had a go for about two rounds, and then kind of went into a little bit of a shell, using his feet in and out. and it was difficult to land flush without backing him up. And I felt like maybe he should have backed him up a little bit more, because every time he did, he looked dangerous.
Eddie, he said in the ring that he wants to go up twice more this year, and he told us he wants to box in Manchester next. Surely they could.
No, I mean, I think he just loves fight. Like, honestly, I've never seen him like this before, where he just wants to be so active. I mean, 2 times is going to be difficult, but certainly would love to fight again this year. We know that the Wilder fight would land probably in January, but also at the same time, he's been around a long time, where he's not just putting all his hopes on that fight. Like, it can get made, and it maybe won't get made. It's all on Skills Challenge in Saudi Arabia, whether that fight happens. Everything we're hearing from every side is that that fight's going ahead in January. But until we sign, you know, we've got to keep the options open. But again, my worry is that who's it going to be? You know, and I think boxing at that level that he's boxing at tonight, and Franklin, you know, although they gave him decent opposition, it's just, you know, he wants to be in those big fights. But at the same time, he's really enjoying his time with Derek James. The camp was totally different. The sparring was totally different. He was a bit more tentative because I just think it was a new opponent and there was so much on the line. But he's enjoying his boxing.
If you do a deal in the next few days with Skills Challenge and it's signed from this side, would you forego a fight now before?
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
that was the fight. That was the fight before. If we fight Wilder, and we 100% want to fight Deontay Wilder. To be honest with you, like, AJ is easy. Like, he would fight Wilder, no problem at all. If he can't fight Wilder, or that deal falls through, he'll want to know when he's fighting next, because that's his mindset at the moment. I think he'd like to get back out to Dallas, back into camp. He'll have a few weeks off, but he's not going to want to hang around. And you know, my only worry is when Deontay Wilder boxes. I heard that Malik Scott said on our Matchroom Boxing podcast that they're planning a fight in October, which worries me a little bit. But at the same time, you know, one of the things that shows you how much AJ wants to fight is, I don't think Deontay Wilder would box for the purse that AJ boxed for tonight. You know, and AJ really don't care. He doesn't care how much he's getting to fight Deontay Wilder. Honestly, he just wants to fight. And if that's going to take time, then he'll want to fight again ASAP. But from the team's point of view, and I know what he wants ultimately, the Wilder fight's one we want to get.
Andy, what did you make of the crowd reaction after the rounds?
Yeah, a bit disappointing, but also I understand everybody's looking for the big KO. Everybody's had a few beers, and it was quite a late main event. And I think, you know, like I said to Wally, the news, no, not agenda, but of he's this, he's that, it does happen. You know, I mean, even going back to, like, if a fighter has had a performance where someone thinks they're a little bit gun shy or whatever, I've seen it with other fighters. I mean, all of a sudden, the pressure mounts earlier to be exciting, and that's what people want. That's what they pay the money for. But I think he'll be excited, and he gave you knockout of the year. But he'll also box in a way that will give him every chance to be victorious.
Eddie, we had a late replacement. We had the Wilder fight looming. It felt like we were back in 2019. Were you worried at any point, especially after those first 2 rounds?
Yeah, not really in the ring. You know, it was pretty tense back in the changing room, because I feel like there wasn't a lot of upside tonight. You know, everyone was, obviously Deontay Wilder knocked him out in the round, and that was one of the decisions why we didn't go with HELENIUS first time around. Before Dillian White signed, Ajit Kabayel and HELENIUS had both agreed terms, but there was always a little bit of reluctancy to fight Robert HELENIUS because of the Wilder fight. So there wasn't really, I think the best we could hope for was a knockout like that. I know it went a few more rounds than people might have liked, but that was about the best finish we could hope for, which was a one-punch devastating